Welcome to Midcard Maniacs, I'm Jay.
And I'm John.
And today we're talking about the Pinnacle. Are they AEW's best faction?
Yep.
If the answer is yes, I'm sure it's a supreme hot take, so just be warned. We'll talk about it.
Dark Order's the best faction.
We do like our Dark Orders.
And Inner Circle, you got a little sympathy for them now. And do you count things like Jurassic Express? Are they a faction because they're three people? I mean, AEW is just riddled with factions.
Everybody's in a faction. I would say that 80% or more are in factions or at least in a tag team, if not in a trios, if not in a faction. There's not a lot of just solo people.
Unless your name is QT Marshall and you're going in business for yourself.
Well, he's not out of the Nightmare family yet.
But yeah, that's all AEW is factions. And that, I think, is a great thing because everybody loves these multi-man matches. Everyone loves stables.
I will say, I have gotten tired of a lot of the multi-man things.
Really?
Yeah. I know AEW is we want to have the best tag division, but it's but do I want to see 8-man tags every week? Not really. I like seeing certain wrestlers. It just gets overwhelming sometimes. Just fucking pump the brakes, guys.
So if we're thinking about the Pinnacle being the pinnacle of all stables, is there anyone that could be better than them? We're putting talent aside. We're not going to be MJF and Shawn Spears and FTR and Wardlow are the best wrestlers on the planet. They're the best wrestlers in AEW. We're not saying that. We're talking about appearance, story, all that stuff. Are they what we want? That's the real thing, because the Four Horsemen hype has been around for a while.
It has been around for a while. I don't know. I'm very curious. I didn't expect MJF or Wardlow to be a part of this, so I don't think that they needed to be here at all. We had the prediction of MJF and Wardlow leaving the Inner Circle and forming a different faction, but I didn't want it to be as this Four Horsemen thing because it didn't seem to make sense. I thought it was going to be either Flying Brian Pillman, or Cody, or someone else like that, not MJF. MJF doesn't feel right, which means now the Inner Circle has turned face. You can't have two competing heel factions. It just doesn't make sense because you're just going to be well, what the fuck's going on here? I don't know if I love the decision just in general because it causes a weird power imbalance, I think.
When you look at a faction, you want to imagine them holding all the gold. You want them to have the titles. So yes, FTR is your tag team. They're the ones who I could see holding the tag titles. Shawn Spears is the one I could see going for the TNT title. And then MJF, to me, isn't at that point yet where he should be holding AEW's top prize. He can't beat Kenny Omega. As much as I think it would be fun to see it, I don't think he can.
No, it's going to be Hangman first. I think that's just inevitable because of that big-ass build. So what does MJF do?
When you think Four Horsemen, you see four of them. That's what you kind of imagine most of the time. But this stable is way bigger than what it should be. Even if Arn decides to make an appearance in the as a manager with Tully, you got too many people, and I really think they made the wrong choice.
I do as well.
I'm actually not for this stable, surprisingly. I was excited where it was going to go, and not to say I'm not excited for the feuds that they'll have and the wrestling matches that they will put on. It's just, I don't think I like MJF in stables.
I agree. He did have some fun back and forth initially when he joined the Inner Circle. Seeing him and Jericho and that power dynamic was really fun, but it ran its course very quickly. Of course, every time he's on the mic, he's gonna cut awesome promos, and I think that he's just better suited to be outside of a stable trying to be in one. That's what he is best at. His journey to get into the Inner Circle was much better than him actually being in it. And I think that would be better for him to continue doing. I think we've mentioned this before in another video. I would have rather him felt like an outcast for a few weeks or even a month and then look to Dark Order to maybe even infiltrate and try and weasel his way in somehow. Even though I don't like him being in a faction, I think Dark Order would be more suitable because he's a conniving son of a bitch.
Even though it's kind of weird to put it in there, but someone like Christian Cage coming into the Pinnacle as that main event top championship guy, because that is something I think is a little more believable. Christian is someone who works well with others, and because of that, he also acts as a mentor in the ring for people like FTR and Shawn Spears. Even though like they are veterans in themselves, they don't need someone like Christian in there. It just comes off as more believable in a stable. Like he is the Jericho to the Inner Circle.
Yeah, I agree. I do want to say I'm not a huge fan of Shawn Spears in general. He initially had like a pretty decent build when he dropped the chairman gimmick and he came back with Tully and he was passing him that little like piece of metal to knock people out with. He was on a roll and then he disappears for 6 months. I'm sure it has something to do with the pandemic. Must have been travel restrictions because he's from Canada, so he probably couldn't get out or something. But like when he came back, it was only recently, and then they just threw him into this same role. They're calling him the chairman again, and it just feels like, well, we don't really care about him anymore. So you should have they should have delayed this Pinnacle thing. What I think is going to happen and why they did rush into it is the Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle at Double or Nothing in a blood and guts match for the main event. It was supposed to happen, last March, with the next big pay-per-view and 2 big 5-man or 4 to 5-man factions. It only makes sense to get some War Games action.
You can really tell that's the whole thing, and it's disappointing because you have that nostalgia, you have something that we've been waiting for like a year now. Maybe I would say like a good year we've been waiting for this 4 Horsemen reincarnation, and it is a letdown. It is, I would say, far from the pinnacle of factions and stables. I felt like they dropped the ball. I don't want to be too negative over it because they could surprise us and it could work. It's kind of the same feeling I had when Pac decided to like form Death Triangle. I wasn't on board with it because it's just two opposites. It's just not like, it's just two opposite characteristics. Pac to me should be the bastard, the lone guy who's gonna go out there and put on like bangers. And then you have like Penta and Phoenix like as this great tag team who I think is more suited for someone like Eddie Kingston. It's like the odd couple tag team that at first you're like, no, I'm not gonna support these guys, but then after a bunch of feuds and matches, all of a sudden they're your favorite wrestlers.
Right, and so I'm sure we'll make another video on this exact topic in 3 months and say, we were wrong about the Pinnacle. What do you guys think? Do you think we're wrong? Do you think the Pinnacle is the pinnacle of AEW? Is it gonna be a quality faction? It's gonna be fun to see Wardlow, so I am stoked for that. Are you stoked for that? Do you like Shawn Spears? I think FTR is a no-brainer. Everyone likes FTR. Let us know your thoughts on all stuff Pinnacle in the comments. Like this video, and if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, stay up to date with everything Midcard Maniacs.